We were here in this Bangalore office of Britannia Industries a couple of years ago to get the long-term picture out from Varun. 2 years later, we're back here to get not only the long-term picture, but what the business looks like. In the last couple of years, so much has happened. There has been unprecedented inflation. The urban weakness in consumer sentiment continues. How would you view the last 2 years? And in light of that, what do you think the next 2 years look like for you?
So the last meeting I remember was in the garden there when it was really, really hot. And today we are in a cool room.
But it's still raining outside, so there are challenges.
So yeah, no, it's been very tough. The last 2 years have been extremely tough. Not just, the business has been okay. We've been doing reasonably well, but tough from an inflation standpoint. What we are not able to deal with is a sine curve in inflation, and that's what we've been seeing for not just for the last 2 years, but for the last 4 years. It's happened twice, and that's the tough part to manifest, because inflation you deal with, and then it's not like you just take price increases.
Yeah.
Right? If it's just a plain price increase, you're going from 5 rupees to 6 rupees or 10 rupees to 11 rupees. It's fine. You could reverse that very quickly. In this case, the consumers are used to price points. So a 5 remains 5, and you got to take some grammage.
What proportion of your portfolio, out of curiosity, is the price points? 5, 10?
60%.
Got it.
So 60% of the portfolio is price points. So you do all of those gymnastics to get the price right for the 5 rupee and for the 10 rupee, get the grammage right. And then suddenly you see that, there's a deflationary trend. So you got to then reverse that, which means bringing in change parts and, all of that to the back end. So that's what we've dealt with, and I think we've dealt with it quite well. What it's taught us is to be nimble-footed on all of these things, and but yes, it did sort of give us a disadvantage in the short term, which now we know how to deal with.
That's one end of the spectrum. The other end is the underlying consumer sentiment. Everyone has been talking about weakness in consumer sentiment. There's been a lot of dichotomous views for that, because on the one hand, you don't have FMCG products being sold, but on the other, you have a lot of these new age brands, offering products at a much higher price point, but a different proposition, flying off the shelf, seeing 50, 60, at times 100% growth as well. So what has really switched in your assessment?
It's a matter of proposition. Frankly, it's all about base business. If you've got a good proposition, obviously your product's going to do well, whether you're new or old. You've got to make sure that your proposition is solid. And some of these new age products, some of these entrepreneurs who are coming to the table are just bringing in great propositions, and hence they are...
So what is it that the legacy guys have missed that these guys have captured?
So the thing is that legacy brands are huge pipes, right? So there's a pipe which can take, let's say, millions of gallons of, brand through it, right? And then suddenly you want to do a small SKU, which is interesting to the consumers and to a certain cohort, but is only a trickle through that big pipe, right? So that's what happens. That trickle sort of gets muddled up with this huge, flow of brands through that pipe. And hence it's important for legacy brands and for large companies to deal with both, right? And today you can. Earlier it used to be one channel which would take all of this through it, right? Today you could have a digital only, you could have an e-com only, you could have a quick com only, you could have a modern trade only.
Right, and that brings me to the next part of what I want to understand. Are the new age customers less brand loyal, and is having the tag of a legacy brand slowly becoming a bit of an albatross around companies' necks? Because think of it as a proposition that, say, a product from Britannia makes versus a proposition that a new age brand makes. All things being equal, people are more propelled to going into the newer brands.
brands will never go away, right? What's changing is not an attitude towards brands. What's changing is the attitude towards how you consume them, right? So when I was growing up, we would buy a Good Day, for instance, and stay with a Good Day throughout the month. Today, the consumer has a huge repertoire of products, right? But yes, there is a proliferation of products which is happening through startups, and hence they are consuming those products. But once they do that, if they like it, they stay with it. If they don't like it, they come back to their base brand. But believe me, brands are very important. And if you are able to give them what they need through a known brand, they will not move away.
Have you seen any example in this lately? Because I'll give you an example of a recently started brand which was offering protein via the wafer format.
Yeah.
And it's been less than 6 months and they've reached an annual run rate of almost 100 crores. They are increasing their repertoire of products out there, etc. as well. So I'm just trying to figure out that if you know, there were some categories you believe that you had right to win over, and perhaps you were a little late to that, or maybe, you know, other brands have taken that space.
No, that's a great example. Mangalam, I think what they brought to the table was a product which was new to the market. Interesting innovation, because wafer is thought through as a very light product, and what you have inside is protein. So very interesting innovation, and I'm not surprised that they're doing so well. But a lot of these products where we've reached 100 crores in a year, and we've said, man, we should have been much more than that. So I genuinely think that these startups are great, and we need to learn a lot from them, and I hope that they do really well. And but yeah, once we've sort of imbibed what we need to do to make our portfolio interesting, we try to make those modifications as well. We missed that, right? We were not in wafers at that point in time. We were launching base wafers. We were not getting to that stage. But those are things that one needs to certainly look at. But one thing about your brand story is true, right? For example, let me tell you about my own sons. They are both in New York, right? And when we go there, we want to go to a Starbucks to have a coffee, and they don't want to. My older son lives in a building where he has a Starbucks in his building, on the ground floor. Yes. And he told me that he's been there for 4 years, he's never been there even once. But they go to a whole lot of other coffee shops which are smaller, and they think that they are contributing towards a new brand which is trying to establish themselves. That's the thinking of the youth, right?
So let me, just circle this back, because I don't know whether you remember this or not. 10 years ago, we had this conversation, and you had given me the example of your son only, and you said that how you won back your son. Why? Because your son was having the parlay hide and seek. At that time, Good Day did not have a very exciting chocolate chips proposition. You got your teams to work, and then you had the Good Day choco chip biscuit that came out, and eventually you won your son over by offering a better product. Now, cut to this time when your son is shunning all these bigger brands, looking for exotic experiences which may not necessarily come from bigger brands. What are you doing to win him over in the categories that you operate in?
No, so that's right. And the way to do that is exactly what we've done with Harry Potter, the Pure Magic Harry Potter. I think you've got to have very exciting products which stick to what the youth wants, and understanding what the youth wants is very important, right? As you talk about, last time we met, you said, these guys are offering clean labels, and some of the large companies are not offering clean labels. So, making sure that you offer clean labels if the youth wants that. We've got a young managers council whereby there is a certain block of managers who are under 30 years of age, who are becoming like an advisory committee for us. One, they spot potential and they tell us what's happening in the world and what are the kind of products which are doing well with the youth and why. Thereafter, they even get involved with our launches. They evaluate our products. They tell us what is right, what is wrong. They evaluate our advertising. They tell us how we can sort of fine-tune it to get to the youth and to get them to buy into the product. So and that's working really well because
what are some of the ideas that they've thrown up lately?
There are many ideas in the pipeline which we are working on.
Like?
No, that.
Come on. I'll come down all the way to Bangalore. You got to tell me a few things.
I'll tell you in private. I don't think we are 100% successful, but we are moving in that direction to make sure that we become a large company with the heart of a small company.
All right, we'll monitor that very closely. I'll personally be very invested in monitoring what are the new products that come out of Britannia. Most definitely. My feedback apart, there are a lot of these increasing internet influencers, so to say, who break down every product, break down the back of every label, and eventually tell you whether this is good or not good for you. What do you make of that and the impact that that can have on the positioning of a product?
No, you see, in a way, it's quite good that they are trying to, get the consumers to open their eyes, but and they should continue to do that. But there's some that I find hypocritical who are doing this with the agenda of driving their own business in some way or form, which they should not do.
When you are the leader of a large company, you want products to be distributed widely. You want products to be affordable. 60% of it comes from 5 to 10 rupee pack. You want them to be shelf stable. You want them to taste a certain way, but you want the inputs to also be, stable and uniform. All of this while dealing with inflation and deflation. There are so many things that are pulling you. You have the right product in the right price at the right place. Still has to be good. How do you do that?
See, for large brands which are very large, you can't make big changes very quickly, right? So there it's a challenge. However, we have made some big changes with even our big brands. A lot of our brands are 100% Tata today.
Got it.
Right? And it took us a long time fine-tuning the product so that we did not have even a small bit of alienation with our products. Now these are all healthier products and they are sitting well with the consumers. The new brands that we are launching and the new products that we are launching, whether it's in the NutriChoice brand umbrella or some of the other brands that we are launching, we are trying to make sure right from the word go, we get everything right with them. So it will take some time, Mangalam. It's not going to happen instantaneously with most large companies, but the transition is on, and as we move forward, this will become a very good portfolio from us.
Basically, we want to go back to the days where we could enjoy a couple of biscuits as and when we wanted to without worrying about what is there in that.
Right. Right.
How long before that happens?
India is a country where malnutrition is a bigger issue than obesity.
Yes.
Right? When you are at the bottom of the pyramid and you need bhook pyas as the most important thing, right? There's nothing wrong with our products, right?
Yes.
It's basically wheat, oil and sugar, right? Which are all basic nutrients, right? And it's the cheapest form of food. It's cheaper than any other food in the market, right? Now, you are an evolved consumer. You will have a different portfolio to choose from, right? Which will be much healthier. But we have to cater to the base of the pyramid. We cannot say that we will add some additional ingredients in this and we will take this price from, let's say, 10 to 20 rupees. That's going to be a price shock for the consumers, and we can't afford that.
Completely agree with you on that one. And that brings me to the base question of it all.
Yeah.
What does Britannia want to do now?
We want this company to perform consistently. Obviously, there are certain factors which have become more and more important with time. Making our portfolio healthier. I'm not saying healthy, I'm saying healthier. Making sure that we offer, different products to the base of the pyramid, but we bring in the right products for, people who are in SEC A and B. We want our portfolio to be enlarged. We want, a portfolio which is wider. So our adjacency business, we are putting a lot of focus on. And I said earlier as well, the first stop is bakery with products which are in the adjacency space. And thereafter, we will see where else we want to go. Dairy is a big play for us. We've made very good progress with milkshakes and milk drinks. Not as much progress with cheese. Cheese has been growing, but small single digit. So we want that to move to the next level.
How do you define the next level? Because 2 years ago, I asked you, where do you see the adjacencies business? You said 3 years later it'll be 35%, 5 years later it'll be 40-45%, and 10 years later you'd imagine a scenario where it is 50%. So 2 years hence, it's still at 25%. So 1 year later, will it be 35%?
Well, I hope so. Not 1 year, but maybe 2 years. Maybe we are running behind our schedule. But 2 years later, certainly. But, it should not come at the cost of biscuits.
Yes.
That's the main criteria. Biscuits have to keep growing. This is our bread and butter. This has to grow aggressively, and that needs to grow 2 times this rate of growth.
It's interesting you say biscuits is your bread and butter, but the metric that you're tracking right now in the company, what would that be? Would that be revenue growth? Would that be volume growth? Would that be distribution reach? Or I read an interesting one in your earlier conference call as well. You said volume per outlet, VPO.
See, volume per outlet is very important, right? So we've got 2 clear, things that we measure. One is volume per outlet. Second is covering areas which we haven't covered till now. And there are many small villages which we don't get to directly. So we'll work at both ends.
Could you give us some quantifiable targets for that over the next couple of years?
So our distribution targets, we will, increase our distribution by at least 100,000 outlets every year.
Got it.
On an overall basis, our volume per outlet should remain stable, right? Despite going to much smaller towns and smaller villages, which means that the volume per outlet needs to increase in urban areas. In terms of the SKUs that we sell in urban areas, we sell about 9 SKUs per outlet. Right? Now that needs to go up by at least 10%. So that 9 needs to move to 10, right? Now what would that mean? That would mean that we are selling more categories, more SKUs into each outlet that we go to. So that's how we define our targets.
The presence of quick commerce is actually increasing the overall FMCG sales, or is it just shifting away from different channels? How has your experience been here?
See, you're talking to me at the wrong time because the entire FMCG industry has gone through a little bit of a slowdown in the last 2 years. So the last 2 years are not testament to the fact that e-com or quick com has increased.
Got it.
Right? However, I do think that with the evolution of quick com, e-com in the future, and also the traditional trade, distribution, channel conflicts coming down, it will only accelerate our growth.
Is margin an outcome of a lot of the things that you're doing? Should we look at it like that? Or are you targeting a margin and then back calculate all the rest? Because on the one hand, you have increased expenditure because of increased distribution, etc. On the second, you are increasing your premiumization, and on the third, you are also maintaining your costs, or you are looking at the cost reduction, which you've given a target of 250 basis points. So margin is an outcome of all of these things, or do you have a target margin range and then you work all the other things around it?
No, nothing works without targets. So we have a target.
Which is what?
Well,
18 to 19%, what it is right now.
Well, we cannot give any
No, I'm
forward-looking
asking
statement.
you.
We cannot give any forward-looking statement. The target always is to make progress on where you are at.
Got it.
As inflationary times get behind us, we will always be endeavoring to, move forward as far as margins are concerned. But I must say that we are in the top quartile of
Your target.
food company margins across the world.
There is the counter argument which goes like, India is such a beautiful growth market. Why worry about margins when you can keep increasing the top line? And there are companies, consumer companies, which have, not necessarily food companies, which have 25-30% margins, and they're not growing. So the street believes, what right do you have to have 25-30% margin when you're not investing in growth?
So that's a tightrope walk.
Exactly.
That's a tightrope walk, and you've got to do it really well, because I've seen a lot of companies go wrong there, right? And that's why I was talking to you about inflation, deflation, sine curve, etc. It's a tightrope walk. You got to make sure that you do not take the consumers for granted. You give them the product at the right price, and also keep an eye on competition and don't go completely out of whack. If you look at some of the companies which have gone wrong on that, you will realize that they just took their eye off the ball, and we do not want that to happen.
So your eye on the ball is maintain margins where they are with some improvement and continue to grow the core. At the same time, adjacencies grow at 2x.
Absolutely.
What does all of that mean in terms of numbers? Again, I ask you that because the last time we spoke, you said if I were to write a 5-year strategy note, of which we're 2 years into already, mid-teens growth would be a possibility. Obviously, a lot happened in the last 2 years for you to not realize that mid-teens growth. But do you think that is a possibility?
It's certainly a possibility. In a country like India, while we have seen a tough period, but once things come back, I think we'll be certainly in that zone, and not just us. A lot of our co-companies in the FMCG space, because that's where the country needs to be, right? Consumption on most categories is much lower than other countries within the same categories, and our prices are much lower, right? We innovate a lot more, so why shouldn't we be in that double-digit growth zone?
How far are we from that?
Well, I don't think we are very far. I think we are reasonably close to that, and I hope that that becomes the reality very, very soon.
How much do you think revenue for Britannia would come from protein or some of the new categories that you are seeding over the last 1 year or so that your young team is talking about?
So currently small, but it's only the dairy space where we have cheese, which has got high protein, and we've got Greek yogurt, which is high protein. But as time goes by, this is going to become very important, especially with the GLP-1s coming into the market, right? I believe that in the US, 1 out of 6 consumers are on the GLP-1, right? And that leads to making sure that you cater to their requirements, because obviously their system is modified, their likes become different. So I think this is going to become very important as we go forward. And I believe GLP-1s are going to come into India as well at 1/10 the price. So we will cater to that and make sure that we enlarge our portfolio on protein.
How would you evaluate yourself when it comes to the total foods company vision that you had, say, 10 years ago?
40%.
40% there. What other categories are you seeding?
So we've seeded a lot of categories in the past. We've changed the portfolio of cake. We've brought in croissants. We've brought in milkshakes. We've brought in wafers. We've also seeded in some test markets in salty snacks. We've done some test markets with protein bars. So all of that, and some of them have gotten to a stage where they are at the next level of growth. Some of them are still at the test market stage, but we will continue to do that. And the trick now is not just to keep seeding these, but the trick is to grow at a much faster pace with the current categories beyond biscuits that you have, and that's what we are working on.
Perfect. We've always spoken at milestones. You know, once when Britannia hit the 1 lakh crore market cap, when it entered the Nifty, now it's nearly $2 billion in revenue. Next one happens when 20,000 crores of top line happens, hopefully very soon. 25,000 crores, when does that happen?
I would say next 3 to 4 years.
Perfect. So next 2 interviews are sorted, 20,000 and 25,000 crores. Thank you so much, Varun.
Thank you.
Always a
Good
pleasure
to see
speaking
you.
with you.
Good to see you.